What's up, guys? Alright, I figured I better get this video done before I kind of forget how the weekend went. So, ran the long arm B3 and the Manoray on Sunday at the Vintage Nats. This worked pretty good. I didn't get to, I wanted to kind of compare it to my B3, like get some on track time with my B3 and that, and just compare lap times, but it just didn't happen. But I pretty much threw it on the track as I put it together. I didn't like look at the track and change anything. It had a little bit of push to it. I wasn't too worried about it. Like Saturday was, or well, Friday, it was okay. Like the track was still kind of coming around and still had a little bit more moisture in it, I think, than it did on Sunday. Well, actually, I know. Because they watered the track Friday after practice. So it was pretty good for Saturday. And they didn't water it Saturday night. And yeah, it was definitely a slick tire track on Sunday without like right from the get-go. But I didn't have anything for this one other than the tires that I had for it because of the B4 wheels and the B6 rears. I thought about burning the because I had green ellipses mounted on it. I thought about burning the tread off, but I was like, I'll just run it how it is. So first, I'll just kind of go into just to not make this too long. I'll just kind of go over how everything kind of went. So, first round, I finished third in my first qualifier. I guess after the race at Hoosier, I made a change on my BC3 that I was hoping to get back out on track after the race is over, but it just wasn't going to happen. So the car's just been sitting here since, was that March? Because I don't really have anywhere around here to test it, or to test the changes that I made. And even Adrenaline really isn't like the perfect car or perfect track to try it on, because the car definitely likes a more high grip surface. But it wasn't bad. So like I said, I ran this first round. I finished third in my qualifier. I don't remember where that put me in seating, and I didn't write it down. But second round, I was like, you know what? I took the BC3 along, thinking maybe I could get it on track. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw some octagons on this thing and run it in the second round. So that's what I did. And it wasn't too bad. It was, and I still had a 21.5 in it. So, but it was I was getting around pretty good, you know, fairly respectable lap times, even with how loose it was. But I ended up sixth in my second qualifier, and that was because of running the BC3. Third qualifier, I finished fifth. Now, by this time, the track is really starting to dry out, and how front end grip on this thing was just almost non-existent. And the rear was like super locked in, but the front was just pushing. And you're having to wait for the front end to grab so you can finally get on the throttle. And coming off that short chute onto the main stretch, the long straightaway where the grid was, you're just waiting to be able to pull the trigger back all the way. And I had made a couple spring changes because I had originally started on silvers and dropped to green in practice. And then before the third round, I put browns on, thinking it would, you know, help soften it up a little bit more. But yeah, it was just nothing. So prior to the main. Um, I was talking to Ronaldo about it, Dr. Mosfet, for those that watch his channel. And he had a set of Proline inversions that he wasn't using for the front. And he goes, well, why? Because I was thinking about burning the tires off quick. And he said, why don't you give these a try quick and, just go out real quick and see how it was. So that's what I did. And the amount of steering this car had was ridiculous. And now it was like, now the back end couldn't handle it. The amount of grip that the front had. So in a way, I was kind of in between like a rock and a hard place. It was either I had way too much push, or I was way too loose using his front tires. Now I could burn the tires off, but we weren't doing any kind of we weren't taking any hot laps. We were literally setting the cars down, rolling off the pit, and running right up and getting on the grid. So I had I would have been like kind of flying blind a little bit. And I didn't really want to take that chance. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shelf this. And I went out to the car and I grabbed my B2. And because I had octagons I could throw on it. I know how the B2 works. I wouldn't really have any surprises when the race started. So I went out. That's what I did. Swap the transponder, put the octagons on, and I was ready to go. And I ran this body and wing, so at least it looked the same. But I ran my B2 in the main. So I'll hold off on that a second, and I'll jump to the Manoray because so first round with the Manoray, I won. After the restart, I was second. This young guy, Bryson, his was quick. We were honestly, our cars were very equally matched, but his consistency was like 97, like high 97%, and mine was like 93. And you can't give up that much. When the cars are that close, you can't give up that much. So I was, seated second in second round after the restart, finished second. Third qualifier, I don't remember how many laps I made, but I think I went like 5 laps, and the car just started feeling funny. Now I've thrown the prop shaft out of this already, like the chassis flexes, and it'll actually throw the prop shaft out of the front input. And then you end up with just a rear-wheel drive car. And I was initially thinking that's what it was, but it wasn't driving like it was a four-wheel drive car or like a two-wheel drive car. So, I wasn't, there's no need to, milk it or anything. So I just brought it up, drove it up the pit lane, got down, and when I took the body off and the prop shaft was still in there, so I started messing around with the back, and the right rear was just freewheeling. And I was like, crap. So went back to the pits, or to my bench. I pulled the cover off, pulled the diff out, and I basically burned all the splines out of the hub for the ball diff. And I kind of figured I was done at that point because I had forgotten my box of Manoray parts. Not that I had a new ball diff, but I had the gear diffs that came in the kit. So, worst kind of worst, I would have just built one of the gear diffs quick and threw it in. But Mark Baldwin, he runs the Manoray too, and he bought ball diffs for his car, but they're heavier than the gear diffs. So he was looking at it from a weight factor, so he never put them in. But he had them in his box, so he was able to just hand over a new rear ball diff for me, or ball diff, and I threw it in, and I was good to go. So Go to the mains. I start second, and a couple laps. Within a couple laps, Bryson had kind of pulled out on me. Uh, Not like super far, but like far enough that the consistency aspect was showing up. He was you know just wheeling it better than I was. And he got behind. I don't know if maybe he got hung up a little bit, but I know he got hung up uh, behind a lap car. And I was starting to like he fired off real quick. It took me a while. It takes me a while to kind of get a little bit of a rhythm going, and then I start kind of hitting my marks better. So between hitting my marks better and him getting kind of tied up in traffic, it kind of helped me out, and I was able to get closer to him. And then, if I remember right, he had a bobble. There's this mogul section, and then there's a left-hander 180 after it, a small jump into a right-hander, a 180 right-hander, and I believe he rolled off that small jump before the right-hander, and he was still kind of dealing with that lap car at the time. So I was able to get pretty much right on him because of that. He didn't have to get marshaled, but he just like rolled, and it slowed him up. And I was able to get on him coming up the long straightaway, and for the whole lap, I was just on him trying to find a place to pass, right, or just like put enough pressure on him. Maybe he would make a mistake, but he was really good, and we stayed together, all through the mogul section, right around where he had rolled there, and through the short chute coming on to the long straight. I went really low trying to get to the inside of him going on to the straightaway. And when there was in that short chute, there was like a jump, and you had to kind of let the car, depending on where you were at on the track, you had to kind of let the car settle a little bit. And I was already kind of close to the pipe, already close to the inside pipe. And I just held it way too tight to the pipe. I should have let it kind of drift up a little bit. He gave me enough room. And I just held it down a little too low because I didn't want to get into him, and basically looped it. I don't remember having to get marshaled, but it was enough that, I got against the pipe. He was able to pull away. And after that, there was no, he was locked in and just clicking laps off. And I was probably half a track behind him, probably at the end. I don't remember what the times were. But yeah. So finished second with the Manoray. So this leads into this. So I was back to back in the mains with these. So I went to Classic, the Y2K, and then 4-wheel drive? The Classic 4-wheel drive, I believe, was last. So, or maybe that was last. I don't remember. No, I think that was first, second, and then Classic 4-wheel drive was fourth. So anyway, excuse me. So, buddy Joe, I had said to him, since I'm back to back and I already had the tire sauced on the B2, I said, hey, I'm back to back just so I don't lose my spot on the stand. Pick that up and then set this one down. So we did. And while I was doing that, I was screwing around with the controller, getting the models changed and everything, and went through, put it on B2 and pressed the button, and I think I'm good. So we're not doing any hot laps or anything, like I had said. And when I started rolling off the pit lane, I was like, why is the car pulling to the right? And so I didn't really, this happened once, I did this once before, and it's like, I don't know if I'm just not used to switching models so much with one controller or what the deal is. Um, but it was like the car was going to the right. And I was like, why's the freaking car going to the right? So I just, boop, 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 and, hit the switch and got it lined up, and I was fine, right? And obviously, I would have noticed something was really wrong had the throttle been reversed, or so, or if it went completely opposite directions, steering wise. But it was just off a little bit, so I just trimmed it out, lined up, and started the race. And like I said, if we would have hot lapped, I'd have noticed something was wrong. But I didn't. So I started seventh in EA with the B2, and down straightaway in front of the driver's stand, and there's this like 120 degree right hander with a 90 degree left hand, like off camber left hander, and then like a gradual right hander to a tabletop. And we get all through there like super great, right? And I hit this freaking tabletop, and the car just goes nose high and lands funny, spins out, and I'm up against the pipe. And I sat there literally 3/4 of a lap until I got marshaled. So then I get going, and I was like, why does this car feel like it has so much power than it normally does? Well, it's because the car was still on the Manoray, or my radio was still on the Manoray. I pressed the button, but I didn't hold the button to switch it to this one, or to the B2. So it was still on the Manoray. And I have the throttle curve, changes and stuff in the radio for the B2, especially with how loose Insanity can get. It just gives it a little softer, takes the punch out, right? Well, I don't have that problem in that one. You want all the punch you can get. So, yeah, I just was caught off guard by how the car felt. And it actually took a while to kind of get used to it. And I ended up finishing seventh. So I go back to pick my car up. I go back to the pit. I set my radio down, and I see it. As soon as I look at it, because I went to hit the power button, all I see is Manoray. I was like, shit. So I drove the whole race with my B2 on the Manoray thing. So had it not happened, or had I actually had it on the right model, the race probably would have went a lot different. But is what it is. Made a mistake. So I gotta remember to be better with switching, making sure the models are switched. Because I said that's the second time I've done that this year. As I did it at Insanity. But it was just in one of the qualifiers. It wasn't in a main, so it wasn't like that big of a deal. But yeah. So anyway, that's how things went for me, and this is basically done now for. Well, maybe I'll take it to the World of RC race in January. This one I'm gonna do a little bit more work to clean it up. I got some sprinters to mount up, and I'm going to run this in the Y2K class at our upcoming RC10 Talk Fall Brawl at the end of October. So if you're anywhere in the Boonton, New Jersey area, northern New Jersey, you want to come out and have fun for the weekend, yeah, come on out. I'll throw the event flyer in here for those that aren't on RC10 Talk and wouldn't normally see the flyer. So I'll throw the flyer here on the end. But all right, it's almost 20 minutes. Time to wrap it up. So see you guys in the next one.